Well, Nigeria is set to appoint its second female Chief Justice as President Bola Tinubu will swear in Justice Kudirat Kekereekun on Friday. This follows the retirement of Justice Olukayode Ariwoola, who served as Chief Justice since 2022 and on the Supreme Court since 2011. In a statement, President Tinubu praised Ariwoola's tenure, highlighting his significant contributions to Nigerian jurisprudence and leadership in the judiciary. Tinubu extended his gratitude for Ariwoola's role in advancing Nigerian law and strengthening the judicial system. Justice Kekereekun's appointment marks a historic moment following Justice Aloma Mukhtar, Nigeria's first female Chief Justice, from July 2012 to November 2014. Lawyer and Arise analyst Frank Tietie joins me now for more on retired Justice Ariwoola. A whole lot of questions, plethora of them. But again, what do you consider to be the most pressing issues facing the judiciary that the new Chief Justice would prioritize?
Wholesome judicial reforms. We need it so badly. And it's quite painful that the highly respected Justice Ariwoola is making those very glorious statements at the very end of his tenure, when he has realized that it was wrong to reduce the Supreme Court's influence to an all-comers affair, and also realizing that there was need for the appointment of many judges and justices, and also decrying that the idea of justice delayed is actually justice denied. So we need urgent judicial reforms. Things just can't continue the old way. Justice Ariwoola had the opportunity, ample opportunity, to cause those changes. I like him. I like him for the fact that he maintains some measure of equanimity. One would have expected that as CJN, with all of those barrage of attacks against him, he would have done something, but the man just kept cool and then did his tenure, never answered his critics, and did all he could do, only for on the last day of office to tell us the things that he ought to have done. So those form the, I would say that they form the template for which the new CJN would actually start running from.
You know, judicial reforms and addressing corruption in the legal system, quite frankly, these are very, very germane, but they seem to come later.
As a player in the system, I can tell you that corruption in the judiciary has hardly been proven. So it's a matter of perception, and you have often referred to me as holding this view about perception because of the various reports that have come out. It's a matter of perception. Public perception was of the judiciary was an all-time low during the time of Justice Ariwoola, but it didn't start that time. One would have expected that Justice Ariwoola would have played to the gallery by instituting certain reforms to stem the tide of the negative perception of the judiciary that it was, a cesspit of corruption, especially in the issue of bribery for order of court, that is for judgments and all of that, in election cases particularly. Justice Ariwoola didn't do that. So if Justice Ariwoola is saying that certain cases shouldn't get to the Supreme Court, I believe that they should start from election cases. They shouldn't go to the Supreme Court. So why should the Supreme Court, a panel and a pack of 5 persons sitting down to decide who is governor of a state of 6 million people? That's wrong. So Justice Ariwoola should have been a bit more pointed. And I'm very hopeful that there is going to be urgent judicial reforms as we speak. Now, if the judiciary is suffering from a shortage of integrity, I think the first thing to do is to enhance its transparency. And we said it several times. Why shouldn't Arise News, for example, have access to the proceedings of every court session and monitor it for any courts, any particular case or any court session that is interested in, and broadcast it live to the Nigerian public? So what are the judges, hiding? So there should be less opacity in the way the judicial process, the administration of justice in our country is run from now on.
And Frank, is it a case of coincidence, or because now we have to bring the issue of value judgment, the issue of ethics and morality to play? Listening to Shemoge's report there, reminding us of what transpired, appointing relatives. So I see you chuckle, but again, how does it work? Put this: value judgment, ethics, morality. Coincidence?
Look, let me be honest with you. Nobody can do a better exegesis of these issues, I would say, other than the person of Professor Chidi Odinkalu, who actually took Justice Ariwoola to the cleaners. He never spared him. He deprecated every action of his all through the time. Even actually, supposed, harmless actions like statements that were made in Rivers State in course of describing the G5 governors as being part of, as receiving his endorsement or somewhat. The man received serious bashing. But I think that I want to stay on the side of saying it's a coincidence of history. What would you have expected? The man would have been forgiven upon his retirement that he deliberately, stifled or prevented the appointment of his son, his daughter-in-law, and the other of his relatives in the Nigeria of today. But the truth about it is that the judicial tradition that we have in this country is that of, rising, above personal interest and exhibiting such kind of, unparalleled excellence in terms of loyalty to the law and loyalty to national interest. I don't think Justice Ariwoola performed very well in that regard.
So, in your opinion, how can judicial independence be better preserved now that we have a new dispensation?
The current justices of the Supreme Court have very fine examples in our previous justices who served under the military, who stood their ground despite the pointed barrel of a gun, by the military, the military jackboot. They never cared. So we have the Justice Kade Shodi Obasekis and the rest of them who stood their grounds, and we also they also transferred that kind of stoic commitment to the law into the days of the democracy. Now these justices must realize that it's a commitment to law, it's a commitment to certain standards, judicial standards, it's a commitment to the greatness of Nigeria. I think that there was too much politicization of the Supreme Court. There was too much politicization of the personality of Chief Justice of Nigeria, especially not only in the time of Justice Ariwoola, even in the times of Justice Tanko. Before that, even going back to Katina Alu, we have only seen, and it's also as a result of the politicization of their appointment, because we've seen situations where the Chief Justice of Nigeria is not liked, and then you remove him on flimsy ground with as bad as with an expert application, brought by somebody that is relatively unknown in a very inferior court that is not a court of record. So we've seen that kind of bastardization, the unnecessary influence and of the the presidency in ensuring that it controls the judiciary. So if the president wants to, have a good legacy, it must stay away from the judiciary. Nevertheless, we are also going to expect that this new CJN will stand her ground in the sense that, at the risk of being sacked or being harassed out of office, she should simply operate by principles. And in that case, Nigeria will be better for it.
Now you're talking about the coming CJN. What lessons can be learned from Justice Ariwoola's tenure that should inform the agenda of the incoming Chief Justice?
Do what you have to do quickly and don't wait till the end of your tenure before regretting. And that has become a pattern. Look at Justice Dattijo. He stayed all through in the Supreme Court, and on his last day was complaining that there is corruption in the Supreme Court. He never said that. He said there was preferences in the allocation of, in the allotment of cases or in the appointment of panels. He should have raised the alarm at that time, and then Nigeria and civil society and the rest of them would have, joined in clamoring for reforms. He didn't say that. So one first thing that she was learned to do is that whatever reforms that she has to announce them now. The Nigerian people are behind him and are behind her, I would say. And then the truth about it is that because of the poor perception of the judiciary at this time, the new CJN must now realize that she has people to please, and the people to please are the Nigerian people, in the sense that she has to now communicate to the Nigerian people that justice is for you. And again, we must stop this idea of personalizing the decisions made in the Supreme Court. Why should we praise Justice Ariwoola for decisions that concerning local government autonomy or Naira redesign? They are not his decisions, or even the increase of the judge's salary by 300%. They should not be attributed to a person. We are dealing with a systemic problem, and the problem is that we have a judiciary that is perceived by the consumers as not serving them well. And in that case, there is urgent need for reforms. Reforms in the legal profession, reforms and using the tool. You don't have to go to the National Assembly all the time to ensure that you can cause that kind of top to bottom reform. You can use that all-powerful tool of practice direction. You can imagine the Chief Justice of Nigeria simply say, this is the way things should be done. And then let's see that Chief Judge in any state that runs contrary to that. And it's not possible. But we also look forward to this contention that, look, there's too much power concentrated in the person of the Chief Justice of Nigeria, and that we should unbundle the such powers. But I don't think that that will be in the interest, because one man is the repository of all the strength to power the wealth of Nigeria, and that's the president. So why are we afraid to also invest such kind of powers of the judiciary in one personality in trust? And that's a huge one. And I don't think that the new Chief Justice of Nigeria is in any way adequate in discharging the responsibility, whether of the NJC, of the FJSC, or whatever a responsibility the Constitution has given to her.
Well, I think just closing this, let me ask you, well, in passing, you remember Willy Willy? It just might be in the room, so when you're going out, that's when you say, I'm out.
Indeed.
Frank, always a delight having you on Newsnight.